welcome to Historiespanarna, History Reconnaissance. This time we bring you the defense of Western Germany in 1952. Excercise Rosebush, with 75,000 US and French soldiers. Army life in Western Germany, river crossings, and the high-tech puffboard. In 1948-49, the military balance in Western Europe was very uneven. The Soviet Union could field almost 100 divisions, 22 of them in place at full strength in Eastern Europe. The Western powers only 10 understrengths and no quickly available reserves. The most pessimistic talk about a hasty retreat in case of a Soviet attack, and falling back to Portugal and Spain, and perhaps to a redoubt in Brittany. The lines of communication were very vulnerable in 1950. The US troops in Germany received supplies almost entirely through the port of Bremerhaven on the North Sea. The supply line ran south from Bremerhaven, dangerously near the border between the two Germanys, and could easily be cut by land and air in any battle. The negotiations in 1950, new lines of communications were established through France by road, rail and pipeline. In the following years, a massive build-up of stores and supplies took place. By the end of 1952, the United States Army in Europe had made significant headway. However, the US 7th Army in West Germany still lacked training facilities, pre-stocks of ammunition, fuel and supplies to make it battle-worthy. Much more remained to be done. Please like, share and subscribe. It means a lot to us.
At precisely noon each day, this bell is rung. To keep that bell ringing, to help make the bell's message stick, that's what the American Army is doing in Germany, alongside our allies of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. That's the job of the United States 7th Army. In the hottest spot in Europe today, it spells out just one word: alert. For occupying Eastern Germany is a power that has long declared its intention to dominate the world. Ami go home, they say. Yanks get out as they beat the propaganda drum. Heckle, kidnap, murder, spy, and enshrine men like Mao, leader of communist aggression in Korea. And behind their curtain, they mask their strength. We don't know when they're going to move or if they're going to move west. But whenever and if ever, we've got to be ready. Our tanks are gassed up and stay gassed up. The big guns are ready with live ammunition, and so are the small weapons. The machines are ready, and so are the men. Alert. A word here that means two things in the big picture: ready to discourage an enemy from striking, ready to meet him if he comes. But you can't keep an army wound up like an alarm clock just waiting. So the 7th Army comes as close as it can to fighting its own war in Germany, in maneuvers like the recent joint United States-French Excercise Rosebush. With the arrival in the field of Lieutenant General Charles L. Bolte, then Commanding General of the 7th Army, and now in command of all United States forces in Europe, the exercise is launched. At 0600 hours, an aggressor force of 25,000 American and French troops, representing the armored spearhead of an enemy, went into action in the cold, rainy dawn of northern Hesse. Mission: with a lightning surprise attack to seize the vital river crossings of the Middle Rhine between the German cities of Mainz and Bonn. With the job of defending the territory, 50,000 friendly troops. Specific mission to cushion the shock for 72 hours while a strong defense line could be built up along the Rhine. men and machines on the move. The aggressor elements trying to plunge through in 4 armored columns. The defenders slowly withdrawing, trying to keep their units intact, but delay the aggressor for those long, long 3 days. All the knowledge, all the training and conditioning of every man put to the test that might one day come for real, with bullets instead of blanks. No enemy fire overhead, but if there were, the troops couldn't have moved any flatter. No enemy machine gun cutting loose on the embankment, but a sortie against one couldn't have been executed with much more realism. And when a man hit for cover, he hit, even though it might be a little soupy. Nothing to hide from, except maybe the future. But the time to learn to smokescreen a movement is now. Where a mistake can be pointed out by an instructor instead of an enemy marksman. Alert, and it's food on the fly. And the Stars and Stripes, the GI newspaper, really on the fly, delivered to troops in the field by helicopter. And in place of enemy fire to determine which troops would have been killed or captured, umpires like the major, even though it sometimes took an argument to convince an earnest lieutenant that he and his men had been legitimately captured by a French unit. But as in any kind of game, even one of war, the umpire is always right. French Marshal Juin, NATO commander of Allied land forces in Central Europe, was one of the many high-ranking officers on hand to study the preparedness of the troops, along with high-ranking officers from almost every nation allied to us by the North Atlantic Treaty, like Portugal's General Pinto Ribeiro. The German population, too, got an eyeful of the strength that is ready to be mustered should trouble burst out of the east. And just as wherever the United States Army goes, the smaller citizenry got a stomachful of chocolate bars and gumdrops. For 3 days and 3 nights, Excercise Rosebush went on. Towns fell and were retaken again and again, the defenders falling gradually back, but winning their goal, winning the time that could be so precious should a real enemy ever decide to play the game for keeps. The defenders held stubbornly to every foot, every vantage point, till superior aggressor power incontrovertibly put them out of action. At the end of the exercise, the critique, our own high brass with that of the NATO nations, conferring with the officers actually commanding troops in the field to hash it out, to find out what was right and what was wrong. What is the potential of the forces committed to dissuading or stopping an enemy attack? Opinion, certain kinks to be straightened out, concepts revamped. But verdict, our forces are on their toes, ready with just about everything they have towards discouraging or halting aggression. But to get back to that word, alert, the key word of the 7th Army, and what it means to the American soldier, the GI himself in Germany. Sergeant Martin here is pretty typical. How about it, Sergeant? Alert. What is its significance to you?
Well, right now, I guess, it means getting this VHF antenna up. Communications. It'll bring into the command post here the high-frequency signals transmitted from battalion headquarters. That's the job for today. But you know, alert means something else to us GIs stationed here in Germany. Western Germany's really back on its feet, too. Plenty to shop for. Yeah, even a hot dog. Except that in Frankfurt, we call them Frankfurters. Then sack time till 6:30 when the kids blow their own special tune for reveille. That is, unless...
Yeah, this is Martin. Okay, I'll be there.
And that's right where the happy family life of yours truly takes on a different picture. The whole family is geared for getting Pop out on the fly, because there's just one thing we're really here for, and whether it's the real thing or another practice alert, we've got to be on our toes.
In this problem, you will focus all the knowledge of artillery that you have gained in your other classes upon the destruction of a specific target. Gentlemen, your field of fire will be this puffboard, which represents the actual terrain, with road intersections and the church steeple. The maps that you were issued prior to the class represent the area that you see before you on the puffboard. Okay, Sergeant Despain, you take the first problem. Your target will be this tank in the wooded area here. Now, Sergeant, fire this mission just as though you were on the observation post in the field.
The ingenious puffboard lets the student perform as though he's calling for actual artillery fire. Chemicals simulating shell bursts register his shots on targets.
Forward observer, Able Company. Fire mission. Azimuth 5800. Mark center of sector. Enemy tank will adjust. Short line at 400.
An operator under the puffboard simulates fire on the exact spot it's called for.
Over line. Drop 200.
Okay, Sergeant Despain, you're on the target. Now, what will your next command be?
Repeat range and fire for effect.
Seventh Army troops have had other opportunities to demonstrate themselves as good neighbors in Europe. When Holland's dikes went out under the hammering of tremendous seas last winter and new storms were blowing up, Army engineers went into fast action. Sandbags were the fingers in the dikes this time, and GIs prepared them by the thousands, working night and day to ready the dikes against a new onslaught of nature. A bulwark against the further devastation of flood. The Dutch will not soon forget help rendered in time of desperate need by American soldiers working shoulder to shoulder with their own men around the clock, helping to save the lowlands from further ruin. But mostly with the 7th Army, it's preparation to meet man's worst catastrophe, war. Remember all the river crossings our troops made in Germany when we were shoving ahead in World War II? Well, our Army is still crossing German rivers the hard way in training exercises like Operation Boat Ride. Problem: a division crossing of the Main River from Hanau to Aschaffenburg, the farther shores theoretically held in strength by the enemy. To cover the crossing, keep the enemy ducking on the other side, heavy firepower, division artillery, including the big self-propelled howitzers, are ready to throw across a curtain of steel and lead as a screen for the hazardous operation. Machine guns ready. The artillerymen working as fast against time as though lives depended on the quick ranging of the pieces. The combat engineers, too, fighting the clock as they hurry the construction of a bridge across the river. A bridge on floats that must sustain the thousands of tons of a division's armor. And meanwhile, the infantry moves out to secure the other end for the bridge, a beachhead on the enemy shores. A striking force that has to hit hard and fast in the dangerously exposed job of a river crossing. Tanks, too, ferry across the mine on steel treadway rafts to join in the simulated fight for the beachhead. Armored support for the infantry to smash ahead where enemy resistance is most stubborn. And let them roll. We did it before, and to make sure we can do it again if we have to, we're doing it right now, in the strange shadow war we wage in Germany. Your 7th Army on the alert, ready to meet trouble out of the east. That this world under God shall have a new birth of freedom.
That's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.